thinking, it's thinking. I see it, here we are. All right, we are live. I will spotlight you, Jeff, and you can take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff. I'm a beginner to Python in general. We're going to talk about Flask and Heroku. Let me start my timer. Okay, I have my timer going, 5 minutes. Flask is a Python web framework. It can help you build web applications or websites. Heroku is a platform as a service. You can use it to help you deploy websites and applications. So let me try sharing my screen. 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal. I'm using Linux right now. If anyone can't see my screen, please just let me know. Like, feel free to interrupt. Okay, so I have a virtual environment open up in Linux, but this should also work in Mac and Windows as well. So I just did ls. I have a Flask app, and I'm going to make a change to my Flask app. I don't expect anyone to memorize these steps in this short time. I just kind of want to show the goal of this 5-minute presentation is just to show how painless or relatively painless it can be to deploy an app using some services like Heroku. So I guess just kind of maybe a proof of how easy it can be, deployment can be. So I'm going to open up the app.py file, and this is where like a lot of the programming logic for Flask lives. And I'm going to add, I only have one. I have a route New York City, NYC. I want to make a change. Heroku uses Git to help with deployment, and I'm going to make a change to this file and then add some changes to Git and then deploy it. So I only have one emoji. One. And I want to have two emojis with computer science, one emoji that advances with computer science. One emoji doesn't seem enough. Two emojis are better than one. So let's add a change to this document. Added an emoji, so let me write this. And so I also actually wrote a test as well, and I need to update that. Whoops. That test. So I have a test for the New York City route, and I'm gonna make the same change. So hopefully this test will pass since it's only, okay, I have 3 dots, yeah, all 3 dots. And so it passed, so I don't have that much time to debug. Okay, so I'm gonna run git status, and there's 2 changes. Your git flow might look different. Yeah, there's other git flows possible. This is just the way I'm going to be doing it. So I'm going to git add app.py test hello.py, then commit. Oops. Okay, and then git push Heroku main is the command that we're going to use to deploy our app to Heroku. I have like GitHub repo with all the steps I did. So this 5 minutes, I'm just showing part of what I described in that GitHub repo. So it's going to take a few more seconds to deploy. And there's other options besides Heroku to make deployment easier. AWS has like a light sail. There's Google App Engine, Python Anywhere. So this is the link for our app that we just updated. This one that ends with a .git, don't ignore that. Use this one that ends with a .com. So I'm going to copy that link address and going to go to the browser, paste the website name, and add the New York NYC route. And here we have 2 emojis, hello New York City Python. And so yeah, this is a really simple app. I guess just wanted the goal of this presentation was just to show there's services out there to make deployment easier. Deployment is like one tricky thing for beginners. I would consider myself a beginner, and even experienced developers, they could use tools like Heroku or Google App Engine to make deployment easier, especially if you're just working on a personal project. But one benefit of Heroku, I guess my 5 minutes is up. One benefit of Heroku is that it's free. It has a free tier, generous free tier. Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Oh,
That was
sorry, let me
fantastic.
stop my share. Okay.
Any questions for Jeff? I thought I saw someone unmute.
Jeff, this is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Thank you for your presentation. To get started in Heroku, is there a good tutorial that you would recommend for someone?
Yeah, so thanks for reminding me. I actually created a GitHub repo that lists all the steps that I did. So I just pasted that in the chat. So I go through, I don't know, maybe I can just share my screen real quick and show that repo. Be real quick. So yeah, so this is the repo, and I show all the requirements. There's like 3 main requirements and what you need to type in your terminal, all that, and directions for Mac as how to set up on Mac and Windows.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And there's also other services. You don't have to use Heroku, but I think that's the one service has a generous free tier. Google App Engine, you could also do it with that, and also Amazon AWS Lightsail. They have some options, I guess, as well.
So I think this was a great demo on how quickly you can get started on Heroku and deploy a Flask app. Have you built anything a little bit more complex? Yeah.
Yeah, I can show
Do you
that.
want to do a little show and tell?
Sure. It's really simple app, but it has a little bit more to it, I guess. It's not just a hello world. So let me get that, and maybe I'll share my screen. One moment.
As you're getting that set up, just to check, I don't believe that Charles is on, but Charles, go ahead and send a message in the chat if you are on.
So I used Heroku and Flask I really like, I guess, keeping up with RSS feeds. That's like a way to keep track of news headlines and other information. So I used a Python library called Feed Parser and Flask to parse the RSS feed. Like the RSS feed is in like a format like XML. So I use those Flask and Feed Parser to parse the headlines, and so this is for NPR. It shows it's really basic, and you can see I don't really have any front end design skills. I also did something similar to this on AWS using Django, but yeah, this one is I used Heroku, and I can just briefly, real quick, show. So if you want to have something more like a traditional website, you have like your Flask structure, like with your app.py. I guess there's different ways to set up your Flask apps, but this is, I guess, one of the more simpler ways. So next to the app.py, you can have a folder called templates, and you can have a file called index.html, and you can, it looks like a regular HTML file, but over here I have like a for list. There's a list called stories list, and I have a for loop, and it loops through and prints out the story. And So I guess that's a tiny bit more complicated, but still pretty simple. But yeah, it just, I guess, shows that, yeah, if deployment, I'm a beginner, and like deployment was one of those things that kind of made me maybe less motivated to write code, because I thought, what's, if it's harder to share my code, why do all this work? But I mean, yeah, tools like Heroku, and eventually I did learn AWS, they can help motivate beginners and even experienced developers to put out more code into the world and share it with people.
We have a question in the chat. Can you build ML apps in Heroku?
I
I'm
think so,
assuming
yeah.
ML is machine learning. Yeah.
I think you can. Someone on the Python Discord, New York City Python Discord, I think they gave a presentation at DataCon, or there's Data Python convention recently, and I think they used Flask on probably Heroku to using TensorFlow. I'm not sure if that's like a machine learning library, but yeah, see, I'm pretty sure you can. It's fairly flexible. And on that GitHub repo that I put, there's documentation links I linked to as well. But the one drawback with Heroku, I mean, they have a nice free service, like a free tier, but their documentation can be a little bit hit or miss. So that's kind of like one thing that motivated me to, I guess, create something like this. I also gave a longer talk like this to Rochester Python, their meetup group. But yeah, let me place those documentation links in the chat.
Very cool. Any last questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to share.
And before I turn off the live stream, last call for Charles. Is Charles here? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream, and we will resume the rest of our event.